you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Angel. Well, hi, thank you so much for tuning in. I have a real treat for you today because I am here with the amazing Judy Lynne Cole of Healingpartnerships.info. She is an amazing woman who I have known for quite a long time, and we are here sharing the frequencies of Zobe amongst many other things that she does in the world. And I am here welcoming Judy, who is on a yacht currently now in Emeryville Harbour. And the gentleman who hosts this yacht and the gentleman who owns this yacht, he has been broadcasting Judy's frequencies out into the ocean for how many years is it?
Oh my goodness. I believe we started in, David started in 2007.
2007.
And we've had only a few incidences where the sound codes have not gone 24/7 because of a power outage, and the project was gifted by David Au, another David, was gifted a generator that's hooked up to solar power, so we don't have that problem ever again.
Right, great. Well, Judy and I have a beautiful background. I came into connection with Judy because of Randy Masters, who's been my guiding light ever since 2001. And then Randy got a call from Judy because Judy got downloaded the codes in her backyard with a couple of friends, seeing the seed of life in her backyard. And yeah, and we got connected, and we never actually physically met for quite a few years, was it?
We didn't meet until May of 2007, but we started working together, I believe it was early part of 2001.
Right. And then I was given, you sent me an amazing ceremony, which I did with the 18 Zobe frequencies at Stonehenge at the time of Winter solstice. And it was profound. All the perfect people lined up. And yeah, and Judy's got some beautiful photos. And so I'm going to hand over to you, Judy, and invite you to share all your brilliance with us and everyone who's watching, whether they're watching today or in the future at some point. And yeah, you've got a lot to share, I know. So without further ado, the brilliant and amazing Judy Lynne Cole. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to share a couple of that are surprise for you, Eeshi-Ra.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Oh, I remember that.
So this was in Allegan, Michigan, at the home of Dean and Mary Hardy. I believe this was July of 2012.
Yeah.
And we didn't speak to each other. In fact, we didn't even plan to see each other until we got to San Francisco.
Right.
And when we both pulled out our dresses for this particular day, we both had black dresses with red roses on them.
Yeah, Sisters of the Rose.
Sisters of the Rose.
Yeah, that's so special.
So, do you remember this one? This was when you were charging your sonic essences.
Yes.
With the Zobe frequencies, and you also added in calendrics by doing it during the winter solstice at Stonehenge.
Yes, it was freezing.
It was, but I love your purple.
Yeah, always a purple girl.
Always a purple girl. Although I do remember in 2012 the hot pink suitcase.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've got a few of those.
Yes. And this one was later on in the year. I think this was around October of 2012. This was taken off the coast of California up by San Francisco.
Yeah, that's when we were on that yacht with Tex. And
yes. That was aboard Spirit. Was aboard Spirit, which was the first boat that kept our sound codes going in the water. And now we have another one called Argosy. This particular photo, this was 2009. This was June of 2009 in Topanga Canyon, California. And the three of us stayed at the home of Tessa Shields, who actually took this picture. That's you, and then Tish McNamara and me.
Yeah.
And that was just an amazing, fun week. It ended up with a quite funny story where I accidentally got left in Los Angeles by a miscommunication that ended up being one of the most wonderful experiences of my life.
Oh.
And and Tish has rescued me ever since. she's just such a joy, and we've had so many laughs because that was literally what was supposed to happen.
Oh, so
And that was where I had an opportunity to work with Rick Mankata, who was the NBC producer.
Oh, that's
And
right.
so I needed to be left in Topanga Canyon.
Yeah. And Tess Shields, she was bringing
And then this was
out of the silence, wasn't she?
Yes, she was working on her documentary Out of the Silence, which is a documentary on sound healing. It's still in need of more funding. She did a crowdfunding a year or so ago and was able to move through more of the animation, but there still needs to be more animation done, and so she's planning to do another fundraiser. Right now she's involved with another movie, and so she doesn't have time, but as soon as she gets finished with that, hopefully she's going to do another fundraiser, because we really need to get that documentary. It really needs to get out to the world. It's going to be fabulous. This particular photo was taken with Masaru Emoto's son, Hiro Emoto, and this was on Redondo Beach in June of 2009.
LA,
in LA. So that's and that was a very fun event. That was the first time that I met the water scientist in 2009 that we've been working with since 2003.
Right, it was the Live H2O conference, wasn't it?
That was the Live H2O conference, and that was great fun. Was great fun. Yeah. So I thought you'd get a kick out of those couple of photos.
Oh, it's so fabulous to see. What quite a history we have together, Angel.
Oh my goodness. Well, we didn't meet for 6 or 7 years.
I know.
But you did 2 ringing ceremonies, maybe 3 at Stonehenge. And then you also did
Waveform 2007 when we included all that water and people were putting it in bodies of water. We were using the water of Glastonbury, the White Spring and the Red Spring, and got crystals in it, so it's a record keeper of the sound, and then it's broadcasting. People were taking these beautiful little glass bottles from the amazing Sunbird who gifted those bottles, who's now no longer with us. But those bottles traveled all over the world from that festival. We had people,
yes, they have. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have. And when we do ringing ceremony, we update. I have, I think, 3 of the little bottles left, and we update them with each ringing ceremony.
That's great. So what's your presentation you'd like to share today?
So this presentation is, of course, I have Kiss Hello. Kiss is actually the name of the laser that we had developed to work like an oscilloscope. And it's a joke on me because I really do not have a clue how to keep anything short and simple. But KISS is an acronym that stands for Chemotropic Imaging Sound System. And chemotropic means turning wave. And my audio engineer, Bob Phillips, he named it the KISS laser simply because he just wanted to poke fun at me. And so kiss hello to the next collaborative revolution in the industries of health, agriculture, art, music, and welcome fully omnipresent sound reproduction. So this is my partner, Tom Myers, who was performing as a multi-instrumentalist at age 24 on Broadway. He's really an amazing man and an amazing and talented musician. So of course I had to do something to do with sound a little bit more than just having been a band student with his dad. So Tom has held, a distribution company. At one point, he imported and distributed CDs and DVDs, and just that's kind of grown and evolved. And I'm very into nutrition. My friends call me the food police. And so we now distribute Sun Formulas, our main product that we distribute. And it was through Sun Formula that I actually discovered my algorithm. my voice print analysis actually changed, and changed dramatically. And it turns out the way that it changed is hitting one of the harmonic resonances of hydrogen. That frequency band was not in my voice print analysis done 2 years before and 6 months before taking Sun Formula as my full dietary protein substitution. And then I had voice print analysis 6 months later and 2 years later. And one particular frequency was just shining back in voice like you wouldn't believe. And we market the urinary MMA, which shows if tissue is able to use B12. And we also we didn't develop, but we market the OmniSound loudspeakers, which we needed for my brain training program. And of course, Tom needs it for any bands that he plays in. And we distribute Kelly Research Technology, they market. An amazing product. It's the 8 essential amino acids. It's been listed in the physician's desk reference since 2000. It doesn't require a prescription because it's a nutritional product. And the frequency band back into my voice print was something that you're not going to really hear as a fundamental note of me because my voice doesn't go low, but shows the voice, and that frequency was 111 hertz. Well, 111 hertz was medically proven in Germany back in the 1930s, mid-1930s, to stimulate endorphin production. What's interesting is Sun Formula has alanine in it, and alanine stimulates endorphin production. But because Sun Formula is fermented, the body accepts it's pre-digested within 23 minutes of ingestion in the first 100 centimeters of functional small intestine. It's an amazing product. We get people off renal dialysis. We get them out of hepatic failure. We have even pulled people out of comas with this product. And for some reason, this product puts that in the voice print analysis of the people who take it. I was very fortunate to have been involved with a naturopathic doctor who had, actually 2 of them, who had that equipment, the voice print analysis equipment, and to be able to check people's voices before and after they started taking our product. It was a fascinating research. So art and science can work hand in hand to improve lives and increase profitability for companies, entrepreneurs, and the artists who invest in right-brained research and left technology. Actually, in our family, Tom is the one who's predominantly right-brained, and I'm the one who's predominantly left-brained. So this image is actually an oscilloscope picture that we colored the green image red and took out the grid lines right there. And I was showing Tom my recording, which we had made as a DVD, and he said, "Judy, this is art." And I said, no, it's science. "No, this is art." And I said, "No, it's science." And so Red Rose, this was actually why you showed up with red of the red roses, because I had actually released this photo. It's hung in a museum during, so it was kind of fun. That's why I had to put that first. So this is where I've taken something very, very left-brained and have created art, which is very right-brained. So our sonic research has been going, really started in 93 and 94, but it really took off full steam ahead in 2001. We have gotten tremendous results with water sonication. I didn't do the test. It was done by a group of people out of the San Francisco, Elena Becks, Kurt Dunson, and David Houston. They tested green and brown algae. Unfortunately, we didn't have identified strain. The 48-minute long algorithm and playing it 1 time a day. This was with Helix, the Music of the Spheres Mirror 1 version 2. In 12 days' time, they got rid of the algae. And what was interesting is when they started with each one of these tanks, you couldn't even see that there were fish inside the tanks. And our water scientist, Dr. Wes Marin, got very interested about the fifth time we had repeatable results. We started out, we had David Houston had another boat that was smaller named Spirit, and she just so much heart. And Spirit, and now Argosy has kept our 2000 was when it began. We discovered, and sure, I have to credit you with this, in having came to, so the three of us met Dr. Pennington in May of 2000. You had come to New York, and there was an emergency with the person you come to meet with, and you called me because I was in Houston at the time. Oh, I'm leaving tomorrow. And you said, fine, I'll just come and I'll pick you up at the airport. And presentation spot in my booth with you, and you'll have a place to sleep. You sent me his phone number. How you're that organized is on me, but you said your number. This was, I called him, and he answered the phone, and he says, oh, I'm going in patient right now. Where did you just drive over here? And so I went to his office, and we open booked our research because it's so parallel. And he said, how can I help you? And I said, oh, well, I need $1 million. Well, he told me he needed $1 million too. He said, how else can I help you? I said, we know this is changing the brainwave, but it's subjective. We need to know what's happening. And he smiled and laughed. And he said, what else do you need? I said, I need EEG studies. And he goes, oh, I can help with that. He says, back to Houston, let's get some brain studies. And so I ended up, it was several months later, I brought all of my equipment down, and Dr. Pennington did an absolutely fantastic job choosing sampling. He had to lead with ground EEG. The population that he chose did not have attention deficit disorder before they had head trauma. The clients had been his patients before they had head trauma and did not have attention deficit disorder. After they had had head trauma, they had the worst attention deficit disorder in the world. And in spite of trying movement therapies, nutrition, acupuncture, sound, they had tried everything. They still had very severe attention deficit disorder. The one gentleman that we tested had not been able to be job stable for more than 6 months for over 20 years. They were both at least 20 years post-closed trauma. EEG, when you look at attention deficit disorder, what you have is high theta brain waves, high alpha brain waves, and virtually no low beta brain waves. Now, the people who were tested had driven to the test site, and of course it was Houston traffic, and so they had a little bit of high beta, but they had no functioning low beta brainwaves. And in 48 minutes time, at the 60% mark, so right around 26, 27, 28 minutes, everybody tested dropped theta, dropped alpha, and dramatically increased low beta in the 13 hertz range, which is totally consistent with the math of the algorithms. And they flipped into this unusual looking brainwave pattern called the brainwave state of mu, which is brainwave synchronicity across the motor cortex. We have had 100% repeatable results, several samplings now. We did test, Dr. Pennington did test an 11-year-old little boy who did not have attention deficit disorder, and he went into the brainwave state of mu in 8 minutes. When we discovered that we were changing the brainwave, the population that the indicators are that this will help is attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, post-head trauma, and autism spectrum disorders. When you're working with a a sound-driven laser, you are actually, if you're the laser operator, you are standing behind the person. And when you're standing behind the person, that particular population that it indicates, that our EEG studies have indicated it will help, they're very likely to just stand up and take off and go do something different in the middle of a session. And the algorithms were written to be played through stereo underwater speakers. When sound comes out of the underwater speakers, as soon as it hits the water, it moves omnidirectional. And so I needed omnidirectional air loudspeakers in order to recreate what the algorithm was supposed to do and did underwater. And everybody laughed at me. They said it didn't exist. They said, Judy, that's every musician's dream. And so I'm here today on this wonderful Energy Medicine Exchange Sound Summit to introduce a new classification in sound reproduction. We have clinic, new home, and new pro audio. These frequencies can help to deal with the planetary crises that we are facing. But we definitely do need to have a brand new classification in sound reproduction. Historically, we've had home and pro audio, and now we have clinic audio. This sound is fully omnipresent sound. Why is omnipresent sound so important? It's important for your oral health, to protect your hearing. It's also important to help level the playing field for disabled musicians, disabled audiences, and for musicians who have suffered hearing loss due to the use of the wrong types of sound reproduction or other accidents. What is omnipresent sound? Omnipresent sound is sound that is everywhere. The following graphs that you're going to see may not make a lot of sense to you. They're data from TEF analyses that have been performed on various models of our OmniSound loudspeakers. TEF analyzers are dedicated instruments that are designed to perform time, energy, and frequency measurements using the science of time delay spectrometry. This first photo is raw data of a polar graph overlay. So this is several different sections that are all overlaid on top of each other, and this has no octave smoothing. For the audio engineers out there who are looking at this, they are not going to be able to believe their eyes. This is taken on another particular OmniSound loudspeaker. This one is the OmniArc 8.0. And this is also a 360-degree absolute polar data graph. Where you see it slightly flattened on the one side, that's because that's where the handle is located. If you take the handle off, you won't see that. This third graph is actually the types of slices that the polar graphs are made up of. They do the testing on the different angles, and then they put them all together for these types of data. You won't find any loudspeakers on the market that are anywhere close to this type of data because it doesn't exist other than what we have. The sound reproduction from OmniSound loudspeakers is patented as being omnipresent. And I can tell you the patent office initially had a little bit of a challenge with that. But when they looked up the word, they realized that we truly did have omnipresent sound. And so they granted the patent. The sound is reproduced 360 degrees, both spherically and radially. This type of sound reproduction is every musician's dream. The entire listening environment becomes the sweet spot. Those within the listening environment will be able to easily carry on conversations without raising their voices. OmniSound loudspeakers are one of the products of Nevada Sound Research, which is an acoustical measurement test lab located in Henderson, Nevada. I don't know that you can see it on the picture here, but the 4 patent numbers are right there at the top of the logo. From inspiration comes invention. The OmniSound loudspeakers were developed by an acoustical engineer who's also an audio engineer and is a very accomplished musician named Edward G. Vollmer. Mr. Strobing was the inventor of an exceptionally designed Ohms F-series frustum loudspeaker. Mr. Vollmer was inspired by this invention, however, the sound reproduction was somewhat airy sounding. Because of the inspiration from the Walsh F-series loudspeaker, Mr. Vollmer decided to build a more accurate, full-bodied, warm-sounding loudspeaker without the airiness. To date, Mr. Vollmer has 4 U.S. patents for loudspeakers for the reproduction of omnipresent sound, and now has new patents pending. So this is one of the first designs of the frustrum speaker. A frustrum is shaped like a pyramid, a 4-sided pyramid, but the top is flat. So this is a floor standing model with a very unique patented 2-way head assembly system. The frequency response range on this beautiful loudspeaker is 18.5 to 20,000 hertz. You can hear every instrument in an orchestra when the sound is reproduced through these frustrum OmniSound loudspeakers. It's just an amazing, amazing experience. This is one of the drivers that is underneath the hood on one of the frustrum loudspeakers. And some people like to look at the motors underneath the hoods, and other people really like to look at the component parts. And the person who owns this particular pair had us not put the grill cloth on the screen enclosures because they actually wanted to see the driver. If you look, I don't know if when you're looking at this, if the slide that is on my right has a round speaker that's on a pole stand. That's another one of the OmniSound loudspeakers. That is called the Merkabah. These little sweethearts, the Jewel 5s, they are truly my favorite. And they're my favorite because I don't tend to stay in one place very long. I tend to move around a lot. And these speakers I can pick up and move. And they're very, they're wonderful. We just did 46 by 76 by 14 foot high sound reproduction in San Francisco in a church, and everyone who sang, spoke, or performed through these speakers was totally amazed at the clarity and the ease of setup. They were just blown away. They're just amazing. These particular ones are in black granite, which happens to be my favorite for performance because quite often you have a lot of lights on you when you're performing. And if you've got people in the audience or people in the band who have problems with glare bothering them, the black granite doesn't reflect the light as much. It's much easier on the eye. And it's interesting, one of the bands that, actually 2 of the bands that Tom performs in, my partner performs in, they use these in almost every performance. And what's interesting is with OmniSound loudspeakers, you do not need any monitors. You literally are hearing everyone in the band in real time. It's amazing. It's totally amazing for the musicians as well as for the audience. This is another type of loudspeaker that are made by OmniSound loudspeakers. These are OmniArcs. The one on my left is the gloss black, and the one on my right is the gray granite. Sometimes in life, accidents happen, and when they happen, they create a lot of problems for those who have been in the accident and for their families and their friends. Sometimes, as a result of accidents, people develop types of hearing impairment. Sometimes they can't hear at all, or they hear very little. And other times they hear too much. When they hear too little, that's called hypoacusis or hypoacusia. When they hear too much, they have a heightened sensitivity with accompanying auditory pain to certain intensities and frequencies of sound. This is sometimes defined as auditory recruitment. Both of these types of hearing impairments are common in cases of autism spectrum disorder. It's very common with our veterans, particularly those who've been victims where there have been blasts. This is common with football players, it's common with basketball players, it's very common with boxers. And it's something that happens quite often with auto accident victims. Being able to hear is a really, really precious gift. Hearing too little can be life-threatening. The little dog in these photos is actually my dog. This is Buddy, and Buddy is deaf. Buddy has hypoacusis. One day, a worker accidentally left the gate open, and I didn't know the gate was open, and Buddy escaped. Fortunately, he was found by neighbors who realized he couldn't hear. So they loaded Buddy up into the car in the kitty seat, in the child seat, and they drove around knowing that there would be somebody looking for him. I wasn't shouting for Buddy, but I had a very distressed look on my face because I knew he couldn't hear me. So the question is, was Buddy really lost, or was he just out recruiting members for the Ringing of the Rivers project? Hearing too much is the other end of the spectrum in audio dysfunction. Hyperacusis is a medical condition that occurs when a person's hearing becomes oversensitive to certain sounds, making those sounds sound louder than they really are. This hypersensitivity to sound is caused by changes in how the brain processes sound, and it's usually centered on certain pitches and frequencies or intensity of those pitches and frequencies. Hyperacusis has more than one cause and is often associated with another common hearing condition called tinnitus. If it's left untreated, it can lead to increased stress levels, anxiety, and phonophobia, which is a psychological fear of sound. Having hyperacusis can result in certain sounds such as traffic noises, machinery noise, and short, sharp sounds becoming uncomfortable and sometimes unbearable. The sound hypersensitivity caused by the condition varies from one person to another person and ranges from having certain sounds being slightly more annoying than others to actually causing pain and dizziness. The most common causes of hyperacusis are exposure to dangerously loud noises and the presence of other hearing and balance problems. In some cases, hyperacusis can occur as a result of a head injury, of a stroke, or of head surgery. The two most common types of hyperacusis are cochlear hyperacusis and vestibular hyperacusis. The little dog in this picture is named Rowdy, and Rowdy, bless his heart, developed vestibular hyperacusis. He was in absolute misery. He couldn't eat, he couldn't drink, and he couldn't walk. He couldn't hold his head upright, and he was too large for the owner to get into her car to take him to the veterinarian. And it turns out he was too large for she and I to get into my car to take him to the veterinarian, and I had to get Tom's help to load Rowdy up to take him to the veterinarian. And when the veterinarian examined Rowdy, he said the nicest thing that we could do, and he recommended, was to put Rowdy to sleep. Rowdy was losing weight because he couldn't eat. He was dehydrated, and he was miserable. And he was 19 years old. That was unacceptable to the owner of Rowdy. And I suggested maybe give the dog, a B12 shot, because if you've got an inflammation, that would help to lower the inflammation. And the veterinarian did that, and he gave the dog some fluids, and he gave the owner a syringe to make sure that the dog stayed hydrated, and we were able to get Rowdy to take Sun Formula. And you can live on Sun Formula, air, water, and nothing else for more than a year, medically proven. So Rowdy was getting food and he was getting water, but he still couldn't hold his head up straight. He still couldn't walk straight, and he was in misery. And because the veterinarian had given me the diagnosis of vestibular hyperacusis for Rowdy, I then got out the database, Kelly Research Technologies database, and looked up vestibular disorders, and found that there were actually frequencies listed to help with that disorder. And so I ordered some custom tuning forks, and fortunately they were in stock, and I was able to get them in right away. And so what happened was we ended up using weekly methylcobalamin injections. We diluted an essential oil blend and put it in Rowdy's ears, and he really liked the oil blend. He liked having his ears rubbed. He took Sun Formula, and he took syringed water, and we gave him a homeopathic product called Guna Dizzy. And then we started working with the custom-made tuning forks for vestibular disorders, which we also started working with the 111 hertz tuning fork, because that is what was proven in medical Germany to stimulate endorphin production. What was interesting is Rowdy, we don't know if he cried because it was painful to him or if he cried because he knew we were really trying, but Rowdy had tears that would come out of his left eye, which was the same side of his body where he had had a damaged ear as a puppy from a dog fight. And what's interesting about teardrops is the chemical composition of a tear changes depending upon what emotion drives the tears. And so we were literally gathering his tears and rubbing them under his tongue and on his gums. What was interesting is Rowdy, after about 20 minutes of this, went woof, stood up. His head was visibly more straight. He walked much more easily into the kitchen, drank water out of the bowl, and wanted to go out. He came back in, drank more water out of the bowl, and ate for the first time in several weeks. The owner continued to work with him with giving him Sun Formula and syringing water in between him drinking his own water and working with the tuning forks. And in less than 3 weeks, the dog, the 19-year-old dog that the veterinarian felt the only option was to put to sleep, was back to his normal self again, playing and having fun. Our ability to perceive the world accurately is dependent upon the capacity to accurately integrate the different sensory data that is received by our brains. Reading text that is double can be really confusing. The letters overlap, they run together. Sometimes the words appear to swim on the page. Sometimes they actually appear to disappear from the page. No one should have to suffer with double vision. There's actually a vision dysfunction called scotopic sensitivity syndrome, where people have trouble reading. And just by changing a color on a filter that overlays the page, the words actually appear. Where they couldn't see them before, they can actually read the words just by a color filter. So hearing dysfunction is not all that the OmniSound helps. When a person has auditory or vision dysfunction, their normal is a very aggravated state of sensory data mismatch. So it doesn't take very much to tip them off or to get them upset, because they stay in this aggravated state all of the time. So the gentleman in this photo, he has the head tilt that is characteristic of a type of vision dysfunction called vertical heterophoria. When you have vision dysfunction, what will happen is the body will posturally correct so that you don't have double vision and you don't have an upset stomach. Double vision is no fun. It's no fun. It will give you an upset stomach and it will make you very miserable. Those who suffer from visual and or auditory dysfunction, Mobius syndrome, autism spectrum disorders, or who are post-head trauma or have chronic traumatic encephalopathy typically live their lives in a state of sensory data mismatch and in a state of sensory data overload. Mobius syndrome is where a person has damaged the sixth and seventh cranial nerves. The sixth and seventh cranial nerves control the musculature of the eyes and also of the face. 40% of people who have autism spectrum disorders have Mobius syndrome. This slide was complimentary from Dr. Andrew Molden, who unfortunately is no longer with us. Imagine the difference between directionally applied sound as opposed to sound rolling around you in a spherical radiation from its source. So my question to you is this: would you rather be pounded by the sound, or would you rather be hugged by the sound? Hyperacusis and vision dysfunction can cause nausea, poor coordination, vertigo, dizziness, clumsiness, neck ache, headache, migraines, shoulder aches, poor depth perception, blurred vision, double vision, light sensitivity, dyslexia, trouble reading and learning, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, inner ear symptoms, pain, vision problems, reading and learning problems, anxiety. It can cause subtle vision misalignment. It can cause agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is where you don't really want to go out. The person can get overwhelmed in crowds and in large spaces. And it can cause lightheadedness, motion sickness, and walking and balance issues. It's not unusual when you have someone who has vision dysfunction to find that they break their ankles or stub their toes a lot. Both hyperacusis and vision dysfunction can be congenital from birth, or they can be the result of traumatic brain injury. One doctor who specializes in head trauma and vision dysfunction and emergency medicine believes the brain training program that I've created is actually part of the answer to unwinding the tension in the eyes once people with vision dysfunction get some help by getting prism eyeglasses. We really do need a new classification in sound reproduction. We've got home, we have pro, but we need to have one more classification to address or to avoid neurological deficits when people work with sound. We need clinic audio. There also needs to be dramatic improvements made to the safety and efficacy of both home and pro audio in the reproduction of sound. And now we have it. Now we have OmniSound loudspeakers, fully omnipresent sound reproduction. This is musical listening bliss. What is sound? Well, Richard Heisier has a very famous, well-known quote. Sound is what happens when air molecules hit each other. With directional loudspeakers, which is almost everything that's on the market these days, you're walking down the street with your date, you hear music playing, and you enter the restaurant to listen to the music and to get something to eat. You have to shout for the waiter or the waitress to hear your order. You really want to hear the music, but you also want to have some conversation with your date. You have to shout for your date to hear you. When you leave the restaurant, you're still shouting because you have become sound sensitized. What just happened? Your auditory system has shut down. Over time, as your hearing recovers, even the smallest sound will appear to be really loud. With OmniSound loudspeakers, this does not happen. The omnidirectional, omnipresent sound reproduction avoids the problem of typical sound sensitization that occurs with directional loudspeakers. So let's look at the same scenario, but look at it with OmniSound as the loudspeakers being used. This actually occurred last year at J.K. O'Donnell's on New Year's Eve. The band was the Mighty McGuigans, and they were using the OmniSound loudspeakers. They were using that's an OmniArc that's flying in the air there. So you're walking down the street with omnipresent sound, and you literally step into the bubble of sound. You and your date both really like what you're hearing, and you follow the music to find the source, but you have a little bit of trouble locating it because you're actually inside the bubble of sound. You read on the marquee that a band is playing in a restaurant. The two of you enter, and you find a table close to the band. The waitress comes over to bring you menus, and you do not have to shout for the waiter or the waitress to hear your order. The entire listening environment has become the sweet spot. You don't have to shout for your date to hear what you have to say. You are experiencing fully omnipresent sound. You are experiencing OmniSound loudspeakers. The potential applications for fully omnipresent sound reproduction are many. Agricultural, water sonication, music therapy, sound healing therapy, biofeedback, psychoacoustics, visual phototransduction, entertainment, edutainment, and commercial uses, such as instead of each band bringing their own musical gear for sound reproduction, the establishment would provide better quality loudspeakers where the musicians just have to plug in and play. The audience will really appreciate this, and they'll probably stay longer because they aren't becoming sound sensitized if they're using the right loudspeakers, which are OmniSound loudspeakers. The list of potential applications is huge, and it's by far the healthier choice for any type of sound reproduction. What's going on is there's wave coherence. Think of a wave propagating through space. The coherence of that wave is a measure of the correlation that exists between the phases of the wave measured at different points, and that will depend upon the characteristics of the source of the wave. The gentleman in this picture is one of my favorite singer-songwriters. His name is Mark Turney. Mark Turney is an amazing gentleman. He has tremendous hearing loss in both ears, and he suffered a very severe head trauma as a child. He's written a song that really speaks to my heart, and I'd like to play this for you. Bear with me while I get the sound up here. The name of the song is Naive Ramblings. Let's see.
Seems like every day a brand new face that I can't tell from all the others. Sings forgettably and sells a million discs, and I just sit here in a heap of crumpled papers, staring at an empty page while Andy Warhol's ghost is laughing. So is it that I just don't get the bigger picture? Am I too naive if I don't get alternative? Because I think alternative to what? Am I some sucker who is blind and masochistic to the muse? Sometimes I wonder why I try so hard, or even why I try at all. Am I naive to think that someone's listening? Life is richer because of it. Doesn't anybody want to look beyond the contract or a demographic target? Is the method so important that we focus on the finger that is pointing at the moon? And no one looks beyond the nail to see the mystery that makes us even want to point it all. So am I being so unreasonable for saying that I'm bored with what the industry is ramming down my throat, while cynicism deals the bell and final blow? I wonder why I try so hard, even why I try at all. Am I naive to think that someone's listening and life is richer because of it? Sometimes it's not about being good enough, it's not about the bottom line. It's about time to put a little hope in things, have a reason for tuning in. Sometimes
Frustration. Naive Ramblings is a song with which I believe many of you can identify. Being a composer, an artist, or an inventor is not an easy task. We're all creative individuals. Speak of your challenges and speak of the solutions. By communication, you feel the universe will respond. I can tell you from experience, I was so frustrated in November of 2008, I was ready to give up on trying to accomplish something with water sonication. My friends in California booked the table at the Fuki Sushi Japanese cuisine restaurant, and we met and we made a list of what we needed to do to launch the next phase of the Ringing of the Rivers project. It seemed to be an impossible list. We closed the restaurant down and everybody took off with part of the list. Amazingly, by noon the next day, we had every item on multiple pages of the components that we needed to launch the next phase of the project. It was launched aboard Spirit with Captain David Tex Houston. That's Tessa Shields, the film director for Out of the Silence, and I. And these sound codes have been going now since 2007. Most people are not mind readers. For your truth to be heard, seen, felt, witnessed, experienced, shared, you must speak it, write it, live it, and be it. Because of omnipresent sound, there is more hope that somebody might want to look beyond the contract or that demographic target. Many are listening, and life is richer because of it. D-Man Foundation is a very fascinating foundation that was founded because of a young man that as a child was hit on his bicycle, and he spent the rest of his life on a ventilator. His family worked very hard in order to provide him with critical, key, wonderful, life-enriching experiences. One of the things that really helped Danny Casal was music. And one of the things that he wanted done was he wanted a music therapy recording studio for people who were paraplegics and quadriplegics. Hope for more smiles, fun, and laughs. Hope through the miracle of music therapy. D-Man Foundation is off and running. They have their first music recording studio in a little town outside of Detroit. Their goal is to open music recording studios for paraplegics and quadriplegics and victims of head trauma all over the world. And with D-Man Foundation, we have for our brain training program and water sonication program, any donation that is over $10,000, we can use their 501c3 with a 100% pass-through to further our research. I can tell you that I have been in the double garage attachment to their recording studio where the room was packed shoulder to shoulder and wheelchair to wheelchair full of disabled musicians jamming together and enjoying themselves so much making music together. If you're going to market healthcare products, learn to choose the healthiest options in your life and live it. You'll be healthier because of it. We offer phenomenal alternative healthcare products on our website. Besides your food, water, and your supplements, you now have the option to choose healthier sound reproduction. Choose OmniSound loudspeakers. Your ears and your audiences will thank you. I want to talk for just a second about another form of wave coherence. When you fall in love with someone who reciprocates your love, when someone writes poetry, composes a song, or makes a statement that is in 100% agreement with how you think or feel or have experienced, when you receive a radionic stick on a reaction plate, when you have all the hairs on your arms stand up and tingles run down your spine, you are feeling a resonance match. There's no impedance or resistance to the flow of energy as information. When you begin working with hydrogen resonance matching harmonically with sound, frustration gets met with understanding, caring, acceptance, and resources are made available from the person or the foundation with whom you have the resonance match in your goals. This DVD, which is Helix, the Music of the Spheres, Mirror 1, Version 2, is one of a 12-part series. 10 of the recordings have been made. 2 of them have not yet been recorded. And I've nicknamed this particular DVD M1V2. It's kind of like the R2D2 in Star Wars, but it's M1V2 for Mirror 1 Version 2. This DVD, every 8-note chord summation creates resonance with one of the constants of hydrogen. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Online, this DVD is $49.99, shipped in the contiguous United States of America. International shipping fees are additional. As part of this event, we will offer this DVD at $40 in the USA only through the end of 2019. If you're outside of the United States, we will have to charge you international shipping fees. But you must email me at sunformula@hotmail.com, and please put in the subject line EME Summit M1V2 for this offer, and I'll let you know how you can pay for it and how we can get it to you. Get your address and get it how we can get it to you, or give it as a gift for Christmas. So in 2015, we actually received partial funding at Volunteer State for our algae study. The gentleman on the right in the picture, well, he may be on your left in the picture, but the gentleman there is Harvey Ray Houston, who was a scholarship trustee at Volunteer State, and he was the original hydraulics engineer with the Tennessee Valley Authority. We received funding, but we had some problems that finding out about them were actually blessings in disguise, and we're working to address them now. We had a TEP analysis done that revealed that our underwater speakers could not handle the frequency response range that we needed. When sound is played through stereo underwater speakers, once the sound hits the water, it moves omnidirectionally. When we discovered that we were changing the brain wave states with 100% repeatable results on EEG, we recognized we needed fully omnidirectional loudspeakers for air. So we began 2 studies, but we're still in the pre-study stage. We began the algae pre-study with the math science department with a professor by the name of Paris Powers. We were planning to use Derivac underwater speakers. We received partial funding from Mr. Houston, but we still need about $75,000. Unfortunately, Paris Powers had been a severe asthmatic since he was a child, and he died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital from a very severe asthma attack. So we're on hold right now. We need to move forward. We do have a water apparatus that we're working to develop that is going to address the problems with being able to hit the full frequency response range that we need. We also began the full kappa ray pre-study in the sleep lab in the Allied Health Sciences Department with Mel Matthews. The sleep study and EEG studies will be full kappa ray, and they are fully grant writable with the exception of the housing allowance. And the reason the housing allowance can't be met is because this is a commuter college. And we do have to address the housing allowance because this will need to be a 5-year project because we have to test on EEG each component of a multiple modality program. Any and all donations are appreciated. Water and all of us in the world need your help. This is a group project. No one person can do this alone. Please be the one to help us reach our goals. It only takes one more snowflake to make that shift. Below is my contact information. I live on Pacific time regardless of where I'm located. That's my body clock. You've got our website is Healingpartnerships.info. I want to thank Energy Medicine Exchange Sound Summit, and very specifically Eeshi-Ra Hart and Thornton Streeter and Gaurav for helping to put this wonderful Sonic Summit together. And I want to thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Judy. That was just awesome. So great to give you a platform to share your brilliance and amazing work, to know that OmniSound can be made into clinic sound, and to help those who are seriously compromised with autism, ADHD, quadriplegia, paraplegia. So it's great to have that opportunity for the viewers to know that there is amazing modalities now coming out that bring really great results to really reach where other modalities cannot reach, to bring light into the darkness of those places. So Judy, please start your video again. We'd love to see your smiling face before we sign off here.
Let's see. Let me figure out how to do that.
Bottom left to the right of the mute.
There we go.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Awesome! Awesome! So happy to have you join us, and thank you for everything that you're doing in the world. Thank you for being in my life and inspiring my work and inspiring my focus with sound. And it's so beautiful that we both share that interest in Zobe frequencies, which are an amazing reset for us on the planet, and how they can be used for water sonication. And if you've been listening and tuning in with this interview, you will be hearing the frequencies in the background. That's what they're going 24/7 into the water, broadcasting into reset the blueprint, reset the energy of water, which reaches everywhere. And it is water within us as well, as we purify and harmonize back to our original blueprint to help us fully transform our world and come back into a place of harmony and ultimately unity with everything. So Judy, so appreciate your time, Angel. We made it. We made it. And despite, you being on a sailboat or yacht in the middle of Emeryville Harbor in California and tuning in with the Wi-Fi there, it's happening. And we've managed to get you up online. So it's wonderful. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Judy, for your time. And
thank you, Eeshi-Ra.
Signing off from the Sound Summit here. And please be sure to share this video with families that you know who have challenges in these areas, so that more people can benefit from the power of sound and the power of OmniSound. So much love, peace and love and harmony
peace
to
and love.
all of you watching. Thank you for watching and tuning in.